Hey y'all, welcome to the Farmer's Table. I'm so happy to have you here in my kitchen with me today. My name is Jess if you are new here, and if you are not new here, welcome back. Today I am showing you a super simple recipe, but first I want to address the fact that I haven't posted anything here in a little while. This is not my main YouTube channel. I have another channel called Roots and Refuge. I'll put a link to it if somehow you found me through the Farmer's Table and didn't know what was going on. However, I am back now. I'm going to be posting regularly through the growing season. The garden is starting to come in, which means I'm spending a lot of time in the kitchen. Today, I am making something for the first time this garden season, and I'm very excited. If you have followed with me over on Roots and Refuge, this will not be your first time hearing about this. It blew my mind when I found out that we could make a sweet iced tea out of basil. Today I have a variety of basil called Tulsi or holy basil. However, this does work with any variety of basil. You can just use regular old culinary basil. However, I think this recipe really shines when you get into some of those unique varieties like lemon or citrus basil, cinnamon basil, holy basil, blue spice, Thai basil, any of those. It's great. I encourage you, if you do have multiple varieties growing in your garden, to play with this. I think that the lemon basil kind of has a little bit of a lemon head taste when you make the tea. The cinnamon basil, a little hint of that like red hot flavor, which is really awesome. The Tulsi holy basil is definitely a unique, delicious, very refreshing, slightly medicinal flavor tea. Today, this is super basic. I don't want to spread it out too long. I've got 2 cups or so of fresh basil leaves pulled out of my garden, rinsed off, nothing super fancy. I like to brew this directly in a mason jar. I have another 1/2 gallon mason jar here with about a 1/2 to 3/4 cup of honey in the bottom of it. That's what I'm going to sweeten my tea with. And I just have my kettle here. I've just boiled this, and I'm gonna go ahead and pour this over my basil leaves. Now, this is roughly, as I said, 2 cups of basil leaves, and this is gonna be roughly like 7-ish cups of water, just whatever it takes to fill the jar up. And now I'm gonna take a lid and just set it over the top of this to let this steep. You typically do want to cover herbal teas whenever you're steeping them. It just, I guess it makes the extraction more efficient to make sure nothing is escaping in the steam. And now I'm gonna let this sit for roughly 20 minutes. You could strain it earlier than that. You could let it sit even longer, but I find between 20 and 30 minutes is about just right to make sure that we're getting strong enough flavor for this to really be enjoyable. All right, it's actually been about 30 minutes because I went outside. And you know how that is. I got a little preoccupied. I just shook this up. This is my steeped basil. And now what I need is to strain this into this jar with the honey. Now, you can use other sweetener here if you want to. I like to use honey. I think the flavor is nice with this. You could just use regular sugar if you wanted. You could use something like maple, or if you wanted to use like stevia or monk fruit, you could do that too. That's gonna come down largely to preference. I like honey. I like to use local raw honey with this because it does have, you know, some medicinal benefits with the basil, which also has medicinal benefits. If you'd like to read more about Tulsi or holy basil and the medicinal properties that it has, there's a really great website called plantsforafuture.org, PFAF.org, and you can look up Tulsi on there or any herb you have growing in your garden, any plant that you've foraged, and find out kind of how it's used and what its benefits are. Once upon a time, I had the perfect little strainer for this, but alas, I have a whole bunch of sons and things like that tend to get carried away. This is still quite hot. So I just compost the leaves after I'm done steeping them, or throw them in the pig bucket or chicken scraps. Now, let's talk about where we can go from here. Some of these basils are really cool that they'll be one color, especially like purple basil and some of the different ones. And when you add lemon juice to them, they change color. I can't remember if this does that. So I just put, you know, roughly a tablespoon or 2 of lemon juice in this usually. This is gonna melt the honey pretty quickly because it's still real hot. If for some reason you know, if you let it sit here until it got cool, you can just put the honey in. It'll take a little longer to incorporate, or you can take a little bit of your basil tea and heat it up to melt the honey. All right, here's the finished product, and it's gonna be great. But you're not limited to basil here. A lot of people don't realize you can take lots of fresh leaves and steep them into teas, and I love to mix up new things. One of my favorite things that I did last year was I would grab some lemon balm, some holy basil, and some mint, and mix those all together. Of course, just mint is also really good. Well, obviously, normally you would want to let this cool before you put it over ice to drink. This is going to melt the ice, but I want to try it here on camera with you guys. So good. A beverage straight out of the garden. This is just a guideline of what you can do. I totally encourage you to play with this. Last year, we made some really great things. I would say this is just the most baseline version where you're putting a couple cups of leaves, steeping them for half an hour-ish, you know, adding honey and lemon juice. But you could do more lemon juice with more sweet, and there you're making something like a lemonade, so anything you add to that is going to boost it. So if you did a bunch of mint leaves with more lemon juice and sweet, you'd have a very minty lemonade tea type situation. With the basils, it's kind of that same sort of thing. Last year, we tried all the different varieties. We mixed a lot of them together, and I think it's awesome. I think it is really cool. You know, when you think of your garden, you think of your vegetables. You think of maybe being able to grow your starches and maybe be able to fill out the food that you put on your plate. But many times when people ask me how to cut corners at the grocery store and how to pare back a little bit on what they're buying, I'll see the list and it's a lot of prepared sweet beverages, which that's a hard, you know, that's a hard slot to fill in your grocery needs from your garden, but it doesn't have to be. So definitely play with this. I will put the basic recipe down below, but again, as I said, it's a baseline. You can do so much more than that basic recipe. I did do something a little different today with this video. I actually posted a video on my main channel sharing kind of some basil growing tips. So if you are looking to grow basil in your garden, definitely check that out. I'll put a link to that as well. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today, and I look forward to sharing all the great summer recipes with y'all. I bless you. Until next time.